Ready to roll?
All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Sacred Pause, the Self-Healers Podcast. Today my guest is Noah Tyrrell. I said it right. I'm the best. Aren't I?
Absolutely.
Unlike everyone else in your life.
It's not Tyrell.
Exactly. That's what I said. This is Danielle's husband. I interviewed Danielle last week, so she's the episode I posted this week. So definitely check it out. That's where I butchered the last name, but now I'm a master. So, Noah here, he's a serial entrepreneur. He's the owner and founder of Feel Good Hemp, which is an amazing CBD company. He is a life coach. He is also one of the most balanced human beings I've ever met, seriously, and one of the most knowledgeable. The most knowledgeable. And he's one of my best guy friends. So, welcome to the show, Noah. Thank you for taking a sacred pause with me.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, like I said in your intro, you are spiritual and you're a serial entrepreneur. Do you find that those two sides of you complement each other, or are they kind of hard to balance?
It's a great question. I would say that they absolutely complement each other in the sense that spirituality complements everything.
Yes,
you know?
I agree. Yeah.
Right? So we're spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And everything is spiritual. So whether you're spiritually mopping up the floor or you're spiritually designing business systems and models that will serve people products and services that help their lives and their experience of life, it's all spiritual, and the more, what I'd say in my experience of being a business owner and someone who's on a spiritual path, I would say that the spiritual growth and the self-growth and the personal growth, personal development, whatever you want to call it, awakening the knowledge of your true self, that has made business more fluid, more free, more easy. You really take full advantage of the opportunities that are meant for you, and you really don't waste nearly as much time on the ones that aren't. And you don't waste effort and energy doing these unconscious things that we do where we're trying to prove our worth or fix what's broken or whatever, and we don't realize that we're trying to do that through our business. If all of my business reaches this certain income level, then I'll feel whole and complete. Or like, if my business achieves XYZ result and helps X amount of people, then I'll feel loved and a part of community and not alone inside. And of course that's all like unconscious stuff, but I was literally just coaching and supporting a group of business owners in a mastermind just last week, where I was brought in as a guest trainer, and we did this process to help uncover people's whys. They're all business owners. They all run digital marketing agencies, and it was like this high-level mastermind for CEOs of agencies.
Wow.
And probably I would say 85 to 90% of them, when we did this deep dive into the why and we kept going deeper and deeper, we were able to unearth some wounded version of their why. So, literally one of the persons when we went deep enough was so that I will be enough.
I love it.
Why they want to grow their business.
Were they just shocked when
I think
that was told to them?
Yeah, I mean, it was a combo because of all, the context I laid around the exercise. Okay. They knew what to expect, and so I wouldn't say they were shocked, but they were definitely like, huh.
Yeah.
So that's what's true here.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a different motivation, a different way to approach everything we do in life. We can approach it from wounded fuel, or from clean fuel, creative fuel, from problem solving, oh my God, I gotta fix what's broken because I'm feeling inherently broken, or from creativity, creating for creation's sake, and experiencing creation through this vehicle, in this timeline, in this body, in this life, on this earth, for these people, what would feel good. That's what I'm doing because it feels good in my heart for a reason.
Yeah.
So I think that spirituality is the foundation of business for people who are meant to live a spiritual experience. There's plenty of people out there who that's not the case,
Totally.
And that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But for people who are listening to a program like this, you have to go into your spirituality deeper to experience more fluidity in your business or career too. You know, that promotion that you want, that title that you want, why do you want it? The more money you want to earn, why do you need it? Why do you want it? Why really? You know, and there's clean fuel and there's dirty fuel, as one of my former mentors, Jeffrey Van Dyke, would call it. The dirty fuel is the wound-driven fuel that's unconsciously driven. I got to be enough, or I got to be complete, or I got to be loved, or I get whatever. The clean fuel is for creation's sake. You know, so. And
I feel like in that type of fuel, the energy is unlimited. Which
Absolutely.
Is so amazing. I feel it. I know you feel it. I see it every time I'm with you. So
yeah.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's no, you know, they call it the grind for a reason, right? The word grind, by definition, means to wear down over time. That's what grinding something means. So when people are like, I'm on my hustle, I'm on my grind.
I'm grinding.
Yeah, and that's so popularized in our culture.
So cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they are. If they
Until the wear down happens and the springs fall off.
Yeah, which is inevitable.
The heart goes, or the lungs go, or the liver goes, or the mind goes, or the back goes, or the passion goes, or whatever it is, right? The body goes, or the relationship, or the wife leaves, or the husband leaves, or, you know, because grinding is wearing something down over time. But being inspired, like, you know, being enthused, the word enthusiasm comes from a root, I think it's a Latin word called entheos, and entheos literally means to, like, be inspirited, like to be full of the divine spirit is what enthusiasm comes from. So when you have enthusiasm for what you're doing and it's clean, it's coming pure from your higher self, from your spirit, your soul, whatever you want to call it, that energy supply is limitless, you know, and it doesn't wear things down over time. It only heals and nurtures and develops things over time, and it's like a healing force instead of a destructive force.
Yeah, I love you because I tell you like experiences I've had, just like I did, how that energy's unlimited.
Yeah. And
then you just give me so much background. I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I knew what I was talking about.
That's the best. Okay. That was an amazing answer. Okay, so if you can just walk us through the journey that led you to the man you are right now, your grounded presence. If you just walk us through how you got there, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I'm not gonna sugarcoat it for your audience and say that it's all been, you know, sunshine and rainbows. It certainly hasn't. You know, I think that some of our greatest learnings and our depth of character and the roots that grow deep so that we can grow tall and bear fruits and spread our, you know, branches wide, those roots often comes from pain, from going head on into difficulty and stress and, you know, learning and growing and becoming more for it. I forgot who said it, but it stuck out of me. It was like, it might have been someone on that show, Naked and Afraid. On
your favorite show, yeah.
My God.
It probably was.
I do love that show. Someone once was like, you know, it's not going to get any easier. We just got to get better at it.
Yeah.
You know, they were talking about like fishing or something. Like, how are we going to get these fish? It's not going to get any easier. We just got to get better at it. You know, and that applies to everything in life. Right? It's not going to get any easier. It's only going to get harder. In fact, your body's only going to have more issues as you age. Your heart is only going to experience more losses as you grow up. You know, my grandma's 94. I don't think she has a single friend left. She's outlived them all, right? You know, you're going to have kids, and the kids are going to have problems, and you're going to have, it's just, life only gets harder as you grow, right? Think back to when you were a kid, how little responsibility you truly had.
And how hard it was.
Yeah, and how it was hard then, too.
Yeah, exactly.
I was certainly one of those depressed 13-year-olds who, you know, despite having tons of fun and friends and all that, was also like, ugh, right?
Yeah, totally, 100%.
But to answer your question, it's really the spark of it, I would say definitively. Like, I grew up in a family that had a conversation for personal development. My mother put me in landmark form for kids when I was 9 years old, for teens when I was 13, for adults when I was 18.
Oh my gosh, no wonder.
Right, and that put a foundation in there, right? But it didn't really spark until a really bad breakup with my high school girlfriend in my first year of college, where I sort of, you know, by lack of courage, I let the relationship go way too long, and it was this horrible breakup. I didn't want to be in the relationship. I wanted to be a freshman in college and go experience the world, but I was kind of like dragging it out, dragging my feet, tumultuous breakup, and I kind of had, I'll be real raw with you for a second, because there's this one point that's like a turning point where I realized the need to go inward. And it started with a woman, not my girlfriend who had that tough breakup with me, but the first girl that I was kind of hooking up with afterwards. This girl had obviously had her eyes on me for, the part of freshman year. As soon as me and my girlfriend were officially done, me and her were like out at a frat party, getting hot and heavy, making out all over the frat house, like that kind of thing. Yeah. And we came home and it was like clear, I'm just going to get a little graphic, a little intimate,
Please.
But whatever, yeah. Right? So we're back in my college dorm room. We're hooking up. Our shirts are off. Bras are off. We're like, it's time to have sex, right? But as I'm going to like take off her pants, I kind of like had this inward moment where, I don't know, I expected her to like assist me in that action. And because she didn't, I had this weird, like, I don't know if she wants me to, when like looking back, like clearly she did. Like we were hooking up all night long, but I had this weird hesitation moment. And then she felt the weirdness. And then it got really weird. And then she just kind of like put on her shirt and was like, I think I should go. And then she just like left, Yeah. And I was like, wait, you don't need to go. And she was like, bye, right? And, we never hooked up again. And she probably has no idea that was like a turning point in my life where I was like, I don't know. Are we allowed to curse on this show?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Because these are the words I said to myself. I was like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. But I'm gonna figure that shit out. This robot just malfunctioned, And it was like so clear and obvious to me in that moment that I was like, what the hell was that, And it's our limiting beliefs, it's our emotional baggage, it's all these different layers of our being that can get stuck and kind of like not function properly when there's a goal, there's a dream, there's an outcome that we would love and enjoy, and we're moving towards it, and then like limiting belief gets in the way, or emotional trauma gets in the way, or my epigenetics from my lineage comes crawling back in. Like there's a million things, my karma, right? So that was the turning point, and I like dedicated myself to studying like social dynamics and social psychology, and like I literally like turned myself into this like pickup artist wannabe, like Mac Daddy, who was like out at the bars 5 nights a week, like learning how to like meet and attract women, right? And then I eventually became a coach in that field and taught that for like several years, teaching guys how to be like authentically confident in who they really are, how to express their interest in a woman in a straightforward, pickup-y way, where it's just like most guys, if they think a woman's attractive, they have no capability of going like, hello, like, I think you're lovely, like, I would like to date you. Like, they and of course, that's not how you'd say it, but, like, they don't know how to do that. And it's all this, like, reflection or this projection of their internal insecurities with who they are, their authentic desires, and that kind of thing. So that was how I started coaching. In 2008, I was, like, this dating coach for men.
Wow.
Right? But then, eventually, by 2010, I was just over it. There was nothing more for me to learn about me in that topic area. So I got bored coaching about it too, and I kind of came then like out as like a full, whatever you want to call it, life coach, like a Tony Robbins type, like health, wealth, spirituality, business and self-development and, all the kinds, all of it, right? And I'd say the other big turning point is in 2011 when I met my spiritual teacher, my guru from India, Yogiraj, who taught me Kundalini Kriya Yoga, which I've been practicing now every day for just about this July, it'll be 10 years that I've been doing it every day.
Wow.
And they call it the lightning path because it is the most directly spiritually evolving meditation technique set known to humanity. What my guru says is that 30 seconds of this breathing technique, it's very simple. Anyone can do it, but staying dedicated to it is a whole other thing.
The key.
Because, well, it's direct, right? There's many pathways up to the top of the mountain, right? If you want to call the top of the mountain spiritual self-realization, like permanently knowing yourself as your God-conscious self, as your soul self, as who you really are, this vast cosmic being that's one with all creation. Like that self-realization is when you know that, you realize it, and you never forget it again. It's not like, oh, I realized that, and then like, oh, this bill, and you like forget it and become a human with the bill that you don't know how to pay or something, right? It's a permanent knowingness, right? It's my life goal, and it's either for this life or the next or the next or the next. It's the highest purpose of a human life is to achieve that realization in a body Because where we come from, we all have that realization. You know, when you're floating in the ethers,
Yeah.
you know that you're ethers, right? But when you're in a body with this ego and this mind and these delusory senses and all this stuff around you, it's the this is the great forgetting that we come to here to experience. And then the great remembering is that process, right? So,
Yes.
so when I met him in 2011 and got initiated into Kundalini Kriya Yoga and started practicing that made everything go deeper. And I've just been a coach and guide and leader, making programs and content for this whole time. So every time I teach, I solidify things deeper for myself. You know, I have a journal that I write in every day, and I've done so for, I think, 6 or 7 years running with basically like no missed days. So it's just this constant process of like meditation, teaching, reflection, letting life guide me. You know, and along that way, there's been tons of tumult. I've built and crashed businesses. I've had to, you know, built teams that I love and then had to fire all of them while going into debt, like at the same time that my dad was being diagnosed with 3 months to live and stage 4 liver cancer and all this stuff that, you know, spoiler for the audience, that like how we built our hemp company was because we used hemp oil and other things to completely reverse his diagnosis, and he's still with us today. Has celebrated 2 or 3 birthdays since he was told he was only going to live for another 3 months.
That plus an amazing diet, right?
It wasn't an amazing diet. It was just a crap ton of vegetable juice, specifically with beets and carrots because they're very good for the liver. So we were feeding him like 40 ounces of veg juice a day. And other than that, it wasn't like, my dad's not the kind of guy who's going to go on like an immaculate, perfect raw vegan diet or something like that. You know, he's more of the like, take a pill, not a positive thinking kind of guy, which is why it's so cool that he, you know, had this healing experience. Mm-hmm. Even this year, the man has worn glasses or bifocals since he was 17 years old. He's 71. This year, in 2020, or this past year in 2020, he started to realize that the world was blurrier with his glasses on than with them off. What? And he doesn't wear glasses anymore.
Oh my God.
And he literally told me, he's like, I don't know how to handle all the miracles that are happening to me.
Did you say he realized this in 2020?
Yeah, in 2020, he got his vision back.
That's
which
amazing.
Is like pretty freaking cool, right? So, side note, but yeah, that's, you know, the process has been a constant self-reflection, constant acquisition of skills and techniques. You know, Kriya Yoga and the subset of techniques there are definitely like a super foundation spiritually. I kind of think about it in 2 ways. Like, how do you develop yourself spiritually? And then how do you develop yourself as like a human machine, right? With a mind and a body and thoughts and feelings and like all the earth stuff, right? And so for spiritual development, Kundalini Kriya Yoga is my absolute recommendation for everyone to check out. Okay. But then there's a set of tools like we've talked about, tapping, this recode process that Chris Duncan introduced to me in his book, You're Not Broken. I've learned just so many over the years. Emotional processing techniques. I've probably learned like 30 or 40 techniques, and now I've distilled them down to like 4 that really freaking work, you know? And that's the thing that I do that I feel like a lot of people don't do, is that like, I always try stuff on. Yeah. Like I learn technique and I never dismiss it. I try it on, and then if it doesn't do anything for me, then I dismiss it. Yeah. You know, but I try them out, I use them, and then I see how they work. And over time they evolve. You know, like the number one go-to technique that I was teaching in 2010 that was making such an impact for me and such an impact for everybody else is like rudimentary to me now, or archaic, or a completely inefficient way to get to the results I was producing with that technique.
What was that technique?
That was an emotional processing technique that involved like deeply meditating upon the negative emotions that you're experiencing. Okay. And I called it the RES technique, RES, for release emotional suffering. And, you know, I used it with great success for a lot of my clients, but like now with other techniques like tapping or like these recode processes, you can get the same result in, you know, a matter of moments instead of like, I literally used to sometimes meditate for an hour on a really tough, stuck emotion and just like be in the shit, you know? And it's just a kind of a archaic way to get there. There's better technology available. So yeah.
Love it. Cool. So you touched on a lot of tools and practices in there. If you were to have to attribute one, like pick one that helped you the most, got you to where you are now, which one would it be?
Absolutely, Kriya Yoga.
Okay. Is that the same thing as Kundalini Yoga?
No, they're different. So Kundalini Yoga. Okay, so your Kundalini is a cosmic energy that's coiled at the base of your spine, and it's latent in every human being, and you can awaken that Kundalini energy through many kinds of various spiritual practices. But as the Kundalini awakens and goes up your spine and awakens each chakra from the root to the second chakra, third chakra, right? The ones we all have heard of.
Yeah.
And as those, the chakras are able to be visualized as like lotus flowers of different petals and different colors. And as the Kundalini awakens and the different chakras open and awaken, different faculties of your spiritual self open and awaken. And so Kundalini Kriya Yoga is what Paramahansa Yogananda taught, who wrote that book, Autobiography of a Yogi, and that made that technique and that lineage of yoga known to humanity. Mm. But this is a technique, so it was a technique that was lost to humanity until like the mid-1800s, till this Guru Lahiri Mahasaya brought it back to humanity, basically from Divinity. Like his guru was like Babaji, which is basically like almost indifferentiable from God. It's such a high, lofty being that for all intents and purposes, it's like one with the divine source. Mm. So the divinity gave it back to humanity for our spiritual evolution. Mm. But this is a technique that was practiced by, great saints and sages of the Buddha, the Jesus, the Lao Tzu, like all these, the Krishna, right? All these spiritual like behemoths of our spiritual history. They all, Kriya Yoga is what they did,
So where does one go to do this?
Well,
YouTube?
No, you have technically to learn Kriya Yoga, you have to be initiated by an actual master. And there's a specific reason for that. One is to preserve the purity of the teachings and make sure that they're taught correctly and accurately, even though they're, easy to do and anyone can do them. They have to be taught correctly. And secondly, because the actual technical way for someone to progress on a path of self-realization, like with Kriya Yoga, is you need to have a guru. And a guru is a guide, right? A guru is a force of nature. It's an energy that draws you into your higher self. It's not a master to like praise to where you give all your power away. The guru is you, right? But the guru is the outward manifestation of an inward truth that wants to express itself, right? And so I think that's important to realize, because most Westerners, when we see things like gurus and masters and teachers like that, we assume like, okay, here's like a charlatan who's here to take my money and take my power and profit from it. And that's true. There are a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
Right? But a true guru, what they'll do is they literally will take on some of your karmic evolution for you. Right? And that's why you have to be initiated by a guru or by one of their acharyas or teachers. Like after almost 10 years of practicing, I'm finally in training to be a teacher for my guru's organization, where I can initiate and create that connection between the guru and the disciple on his behalf. I'm no guru.
So right? When will that be? So I'll wait for you to be ready.
Hopefully in the next 6 months or so.
Are you serious? Yeah. And then you can initiate me?
Yeah, I can teach you the techniques for sure.
Oh my gosh.
On behalf of my guru.
This is amazing.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I've literally wanted to do that since, because I'm a natural teacher too, So since I learned it, I was like, I want to teach this stuff. This is the best. And my guru really helped humble me by making me wait 10 years.
That's a long time. Is this the guru you speak to every week?
No, that's a mentor of mine named Tom Kelly. But his guru was Paramahansa Yogananda, or is Paramahansa Yogananda. So same lineage. He's been practicing Kriya Yoga since 1967 without missing a day, right? So, and that man I talk to every week as a mentor. But my guru's name is Yogiraj. You can Google him. He's got lots of YouTube videos out there of his talks. Yogiraj Gurunath Siddhanath.
Okay.
Or if you just type in Yogiraj, you'll see him. White beard, white hair, looks like a guru.
I'll put all this in the notes.
Yeah,
because I'm going to also do some research.
Oh, yeah, and he's got great videos online. And, the differential between a teacher and a master a true Sat guru, or, a lot of people call themselves a guru when they're really, they're a teacher, right? My master always says this: a teacher informs, a master transforms. So he will literally change your being, not with the words he's speaking, but the vibration he's sending out. And that's the difference between, there's plenty of amazing teachers out there, right? But a true guru, which there's never that many of them walking the planet at any one given time, especially not publicly, right? But that's like the litmus test. That's how you know, like, am I looking at a teacher? Am I looking at a master? A master can literally transmit transmissions to you. Like, my guru gives out 3 different ones. One is pranapat, where he literally breathes through the breath and elongates and deepens your breath in this very like meditative state.
Wow.
And he'll do it in a room of 500 people, and he'll survey the audience, like, whose breath deepened and lengthened. And you'll take these super long, uber slow breaths where it's like, I've never breathed this slow and long before in my life during the transmission.
Amazing.
And then, 98, 99% of the room will raise their hand. There's always a couple people who don't get the transmission because if the mind is super active, the critical mind, it's like some passage in the Bible where it's like, knock, but ye must open the door. Like, Jesus can't enter your heart unless, I'm totally butchering that. But it's basically, we always have free will. We can always be like, nope, and we can always resist and decide what energies come into our space. So
without even knowing it.
Without even knowing it. The first time I met my guru, the first time he gave a transmission, I did not receive it. And I was one of those 5 people in the room who's like, I ain't get that, right? But then I truly just try to like loosen my mind, loosen the grip, loosen the control, relax and be present. And then the second time he gave a transmission, I was like, oh, cool. Now I know what they're talking about. And so it's a process of really all of self-realization is this. There's 2 forces that want to control the consciousness of your being. There's your ego and your limited self, and there's your soul consciousness and your infinite self. And they are constantly battling for who is sitting on the throne, who's making the decisions, who's calling the shots, whose perspective are we viewing from? Am I separate from you, ego, or are we one? Soul, right? Like that's and the process of self-realization is to permanently put the consciousness of your soul on the throne of consciousness of your body and your being, and to live from that space. And it's quite a process, but you go through that gyration countless times on the way there. And I'm forgetting even what the original question was. What's the most potent technique? Kundalini Kriya Yoga. And I think it's worthwhile to say that whatever spiritual technique resonates with you the most, is practiced by you the most, you can make consistent in your life, that's the best spiritual technique for you. I don't want your audience to think that I'm sitting here going like, everyone has to do this. In fact, I have countless friends who've come with me at different times to like meet my master. He lives in India, but once a year he'll do a tour and he'll speak in California and he'll speak in New York and give empowerments and initiations, right? And he goes all over the world. I mean, just that alone makes him a saint. For 35 plus years, he's been leaving his home, his beautiful ashram in India, in the forest in the jungle with monkeys in the trees and 10 people cooking food from scratch 3 meals a day every day, and just this beautiful existence.
Wow,
he leaves that to live out of a suitcase, travel around, and say this literally almost the same damn thing over and over again in his introductory speech about what is Kriya Yoga, why does it work, how is it a path for evolution. I mean, the patience of this man. Could you imagine that? Like giving the same, almost essentially the same speech.
When you already have the life.
When you already have the life and you already know what you're talking about, as if it was like, imagine traveling the world and teaching 2 + 2 = 4 over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for 35 years straight. That alone, it's like, this man is a saint. But anyway, the reason I going back to what I was saying, the spiritual technique that works for you is whichever one you're going to resonate with and practice consistently. Because consistency is a gem, right? Consistency is a gem. Things in motion like to stay in motion, right? It's physics, right? Once the train's in motion, it wants to stay in motion. If you do a spiritual technique today, and then not tomorrow, and then not the next day, but then you do it the 4th day, and then maybe the 5th day, it's your train is starting and stopping. It's not good. It's not going to support you. And ultimately, if there's a mountain, and self-realization is reaching the peak of your own Everest, right? The reason why they call Kriya Yoga the lightning path is because like Kriya Yoga would be like climbing the steepest, most direct path up to the top, right? Like if there's like the shortest route from A to B is a direct line, right? So like maybe this mountain has a path that's like that, but it's a steep wall. It's the path of the knights and the angels and the gods and the heroes of humanity, right? It's a granted, most people who learn it won't stay consistent with it, and that's been my experience. But for the kind of person who's really like, I like it hardcore, like when I go for something, I want to go for it all the way. To me, it's the only way to do it is the best way. You know, like in martial arts, my favorite martial art is jiu-jitsu because I think it's the best. You know, and the UFC pretty much proved that. And is there place for other martial arts? Absolutely. But if someone only knows one martial art, the person who knows jiu-jitsu is going to win that fight. If it's one-on-one and each person only knows one martial art distinctly, jiu-jitsu is going to win that almost every time. And so it's the best. And that's why I trained that, right? Kriya Yoga is the same kind of deal. It's the best spiritual technique. And I've trained plenty of other ones. You know, Vipassana, they call that kind of like the baby Kriya. It's sort of like an introduction to Kriya Yoga. It's like, it helps purify the mind before doing this Raj Yoga, this kingly yoga, which is Kriya Yoga. But then the other paths, you know, transcendental meditation, or you know, or just breath work, or chanting, or all these other things. Bhakti yoga, just living in devotion and devotion and devotion and chanting and living from your heart. Karma yoga, like turning every little thing you do into an act of service to the divine. All these different paths. They're just other pathways up the mountain, and they have various steepness to them, various speed at which they're going to get to the top. They're all just slower than Kriya Yoga, right? So like basically, because it's a spinal breathing process where you're going up and down the spine with a breath and a technique and a visualization, you're basically doing one circle around the sun every 30 seconds. So you're doing, if I did no spiritual techniques at all, I would evolve spiritually. You're always evolving spiritually as a human. But in the amount of time of doing nothing at all, or maybe just like praying once a week, or, you know, at church on Sundays, or something just very basic, in that 1 year time, 30 seconds of Kriya Yoga achieves the same result. So when you sit down for a half an hour or 45 minutes of it each morning, you literally evolve, you know, hundreds of years in your consciousness at a time.
How long do you spend every day doing this?
It depends. You know, I go through cycles of doing it for 2 hours every morning. Okay. I go through cycles of squeezing in 30 to 45 minutes each morning, but it's always somewhere in between there, you know? And so, yeah, so when you do 2 hours of it, I don't want to do the math in my head because I'll butcher it right now, but you make a nice step forward. Yeah. You know, and then the truth of the matter is that the guru is this outward manifestation. Think of the guru as an aspect of nature, just like waterfalls or canyons or rocks on the earth, right? These are just things that exist in our reality. The guru is not this person. A true guru is not here to take your power from you. They're here to help you self into yourself and realize your divinity. And in fact, the guru at the very last stages of self-realization, the guru becomes an obstacle because there's only one. Right? So there can be no two. Yeah. Right? So the great oneness that you want to, it's like when the drop returns to the ocean, right? There's only one ocean, really. We call it the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, right? But it's all just one body of water, really. It's all connected, right? And you can conceive of your individual soul or consciousness as a drop from that ocean. Self-realization is when the drop returns to the whole and understands itself as one with the whole, right? Yeah. So in that process, the guru must merge back into the ocean with you. Every outward experience of something that's distant from you returns back into this oneness that you cognize, recognize, realize yourself as one with. So I think that's just important because, again, I think the Western mind, I know for me for sure, it's like, what is this guru business? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then you think of something like the dude from Bikram who's like raping people on the side, or the dude even from Kundalini Yoga. So the Kundalini Yoga you were talking about, which, you know, Danielle is a trained teacher in. Yep. Yogi Bhajan created that. And I don't know the truth of these allegations, but there's tons of allegations about him also having all this like rapey stuff going on, right? Actually, I heard a story, so I never verified this is true, but one of my Guru's disciples said that Yogi Bhajan, the creator of Kundalini Yoga, actually met my Guru and said, my techniques are designed to get people ready for your techniques. You know, so Kundalini Yoga is an amazing practice, and I've done tons of it as it's taught by Yogi Bhajan. There's lots of great kriyas in that, but there's nothing compared to what you would call in its full name. It's Babaji's Kundalini Kriya Yoga, because it comes straight from Babaji. It comes down a lineage of masters and Satgurus, and it's the highest spiritual technique known to humanity on this earth. And that I can say with confidence, because I've definitely been scouring them, you know, and I've been scouring masters too. You know, you at some point you start to, you know, I'm very empathic, right? Like out of our sixth sense perceptions, there's clairvoyance, like seeing things. I don't do that much of that. Clairaudience, like hearing things from the divine. I don't do that much of it. Clairsentience is feeling things, and then claircognizance is just kind of like knowing things, right? That are extrasensory. I'm much more in the space of like, I would say clairsentience. I can feel people's emotions. I can empath with things. And even when I'm like downloading things from my higher self, it's sort of like a feeling that turns into words. If that makes any sense. Yeah. I like feel the words before they become words. That's how my stream works, at least. Wow. Right? So the reason I brought that up is because I'm definitely like attuned with clairsentience. I feel the vibration of things and emotions of people. And when I empath with different masters, you know, there's a hierarchy to spirituality. Even, you know, in all of yoga, there's 9 levels of initiation, right? And the 9th level is like God himself, right? The 8th level would be like the spiritual being that is our sun, that literally lives for billions of years, generates all the prana, all the energy, all the love that we experience. It all comes from the sun. It's a mighty spiritual being. They call him, or he's known as Surya or Vikramaditya, if I'm hopefully not butchering that. But it's a being, right, who's on his own spiritual path of ascending towards that ninth level of initiation. 8th level would be something like our sun, right? 7th level would be something like my master. And 7th level initiates living in a body on this planet are incredibly rare. You know, we usually have like 2 a century, you know, and there's tons of other ones. Anandamoyi Ma, she was a female avatar of the 20th century. Beings came from all around the world. Sometimes she'd be sitting, 40,000 people gathering just to listen to her sing. She was born to a poor, absolutely impoverished family, and days after she was born, wise sages showed up to let the family know who was just born into their family, you know, which is very similar to the story you hear about Jesus. Jesus was an avatar, right? Buddha was an avatar. Avatars come to this planet, take on our karma, support our evolution. This is a function of natural spiritual evolution, a function of nature in this duality reality, you know, and I love how on our altar, on our wall, we have Jesus, we have Buddha, we have, you know, my lineage of masters, Swami Shri Teshwar and Yogananda and Lahir Masai, all these masters, because, you know, they're all one, right? If you actually look at the core tenets of every single religion, they're all very similar. The parts that really resonate and grab people in, not like the little rules and the things that mess people up, but the core tenets of, like, you know, Jesus said, ye are gods. You know, he didn't say, I'm the God, worship me, and eventually I'll let you into heaven. Yeah. Heaven is here right now if you're in the same consciousness as Jesus was when he was even on the cross, saying, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. He was in blissful consciousness, absolute, pure, unconditional love, while his body was being torn to shreds by fucking idiots, right? So that's what's possible for every human being. That's like, you know, and that started to become what my goal was, you know, about 10 years ago, right? Because I did the whole, like, let me be like the Mac to the chicks thing. And I was like, yeah, and I got that. And I was like, cool, now I got hot chicks around me, sweet, right? And now I'm so cool. Then I was like, let me build awesome business. And I built like $1 million a year business straight out of college. And I was like riding my motorcycle around San Diego and like doing jujitsu. And I was like, cool, I'm the fucking man. Yeah. And then I was like, let me be a badass and train jujitsu with like some of the world's best fighters. And like literally UFC fighters would come into our gym to prep before they're going to their fight, you know, to get their last little bit of grappling in and teaching from our teachers. You know, I trained with the Gracies. You know, my master was in jiu-jitsu, he was his grandfather invented Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right? Clark Gracie. And so like, I guess the piece of content that's here that's super valuable that I love to share with people is that every friggin' thing we do on this planet is to try to taste divinity. And we just don't know that that's what we're up to. When we get that A on that test, a moment of divinity.
Yeah.
When we eat that delicious ice cream sundae, a moment of divinity. When we have sex with that beautiful person, and there's this beautiful experience of connectedness and love and sensuality, divinity. When we achieve that goal and we reach that outcome with our business and we cross a milestone that matters to us, divinity. And we get these little tastes of divinity, but we keep thinking that it comes from that or this or that or this or that or this, but it actually comes from here. And if you're lucky, at some point, you'll realize that the only journey that freaking matters is that one, right? Seek first the kingdom of heaven, all else will be added unto you. It doesn't mean just worry about heaven, aka the afterlife. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of heaven is something you can live from in this moment, right? It's a joy that permeates your being. And, when we talk about the difference between conditional love and unconditional love, between dualistic love, right? That humans show to each other when they like each other, but not when they don't like each other, right? And we talk about unconditional love, this permanent bliss, love, consciousness that is like the ethers of all existence, whatever you want to call it. Like the thing that makes Jesus able to forgive the people who are tearing his flesh apart, right? That kind of love, that's the kingdom of heaven, and that's available to us, And so you can still have the outside things, I'm not saying...
Yeah, you can have both.
Yeah, I just raised another round of financing for my company, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm doing it in the world. I'm
doing
following...
it all, yep.
But when it stops defining you is when you'll actually start to get all the things that you want. Because you seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all else will be added unto you. So if you want the glitz, you want the glamour, you want the name, you want the fame... you want the material possessions, you want the freedom to travel, you want the impact in the world, you want the good life for your kids, you want to leave a legacy, you want all these things, you will naturally do that, and you'll enjoy every step of the way there if you actually take all that outward focus, turn it inwards, and seek your own soul, your own divinity, your own truth, and who you really are. And I didn't think that that's where this conversation would go so potently, but it is the thing that I am most passionate about in my life. So I think it's just naturally turning that way.
Wow. You're a great speaker. I'm just processing everything you just said. This is like how it is every time we hang out.
I love it. I love it.
That's why I like getting a little marijuana in you, because you can slow it down a little, and I'm able to process quicker. But I love it. I love it regardless. Ooh, you got hair all in my mouth. Okay, so speaking of all of that amazingness, how it's always in us, let's do some tools to tap in and show our viewers that you can do it yourself at home, and you can let go of these things that aren't serving you physically, mentally, how it's all so connected. Yeah. And how we really are self-healers, and we could heal ourselves.
I love that you're calling this the self-healing podcast.
The Self-Healers Podcast. Yeah. You like that?
I think it's brilliant.
Cool.
And, side note, business talk, that's what people want. They're tired of people being like, I know the way, follow me, do what I do, and worship me. Like, nobody wants that. They want to hear from someone who's like them, who's humble, who's normal, who said, I fixed it for myself. Yes, of course, there's no such thing as a self-made man or woman. We are all standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, none of us would be here if not for amazing sacrifices and a stoic type of wisdom and willingness to create better future generations, to write those books, to create those, those institutions, right? Whatever the people, like, how many teachers do I have, really? I mean, I could probably name 50 right now who have made a deep impact on my life. Yeah. And if you're smart, you recognize that. When you read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, who was a great Stoic philosopher and the last, what they called the good emperors of Rome, he starts off the book by basically naming like 50 teachers. He's like, and I'd like to thank Heracles for XYZ and making me know that always blah, blah, blah. And like, he just goes on and on about the people who've impacted him. So I'm in no way saying that like, be a self-healer means like, you're the shit. Like, we can still learn from each other, but you want to learn from people who are realizing that we're all one. I think that's really,
Yes,
you know.
totally.
And the self is the only thing that ever heals you anyway. You know, yes, we find outward things, but if you remove resistance inward, your self will guide you the exact next step you need versus the runaround that your wounding will take you on.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And you'll always be accessing that exact next step that you need, whether it's for physical healing, for emotional healing, for achieving goals in the world, whatever. So, but to get into what you're talking about, I'll probably share 2 techniques, and
Cool.
it might be a little too much to share both these techniques at once.
Start with one. Well, whatever you think. You're the master.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So, but the first thing I want to do is just make people aware of what's really impacting their experience at this moment, because it's vast, right? So first off, there's all the 5 senses, which are all limited and delusory, right? There's more to see than what we see with our eyes. There's more to hear than what we hear with our ears. There's more to touch and feel than what we feel. And even like, you know, we think this is solid, but this is 99.9% empty space. You know, according to physics, if I put my hand on this wall, some of my atoms just went through the wall and did like a commingling, or I forget, what do they call that? They call that, I'm gonna move on. But
Commingling works.
You understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's the quantum entanglement, I think is what it's called. But anyway, so there's the 5 senses, right? Then there's your emotional body, right? And there's lots of different ways to talk about this, different models, you could say, right? I think there's a 9 bodies model that has like a mental body, a spiritual body, an emotional body, an intuitional body, like all these different things, right? In Kundalini yoga, they have a 9 different bodies or 8 different bodies, I don't remember. But for me, I'm just going to share the ones that I think are the most tangible, that are actually impacting your experience the most. So it's your emotional debris, right? The Body Keeps Score is a really famous book on this topic. Our nervous system remembers things. Our cells remember things. Our mind is always scanning for things that look like things that hurt us before to keep us safe. You know, so we might see a person that reminds us of a person who made fun of us in 7th grade, and instantly we're tense and we don't even know why, because the mind is hyper alert to that kind of stuff, and the body and the cells remember too, right? And quite literally, there's, you know, emotions, energy in motion. Emotions are a tangible energy. That's why we feel them, and when we don't process them correctly or fully, they can get trapped in the body in different places, right? You know, someone who's got their head slumped forward like this, they probably have been stuffing their voice a lot. You know, it's a 5th chakra, throat chakra kind of deal, right? Someone who's got low back pain, they feel unsupported, right? Louise Hayes has a whole book, You Can Heal Yourself, on this kind of how we trap our beliefs and our emotions in our body, and they create impacts to our body. I also think it's important to recognize, you know, the most traditional sense of yoga. They talk about the causal body, the astral body, and the physical body. The causal body is like your soul body, who you really are, the cause of the other bodies, right? And that's your soul self. That's your real self. That's your divinity, right? It's peerless. It's perfection, right? It's infinitely wise. It's omnipresent, omnipotent, right? Astral body, you kind of think of that like as your soul or your energy body. It's, if you do like astral projection in dreamland, it's the body that you're inhabiting when you're in your dreamland. Some people can control it, others can't, most can't, right? But that's your astral body, and it carries things. And then your physical body. So the most important thing to remember is that your physical body is a result of your astral body, is a result of your causal body. And that'll impact one of the techniques I'm going to teach. The other thing is just like, so in this physical body, our cells remember things, our nervous system remembers things. It's constantly feeding subconscious signals to us to try to keep us safe. Right? And that looks like emotional debris. It also looks like limiting beliefs, right? That are operating in our subconscious mind much more often than our conscious mind, right? So it's our beliefs, it's our emotions, it's our cellular memory, it's our epigenetics. You know, you were in the womb of your grandmother. If your grandmother was in World War II, hiding in a basement somewhere, the egg that you were was in, the egg of your mother. Your mother came out with all her eggs. So you were in your mother, who was in your grandmother, who was in a basement in World War II hiding from Nazis, right? That cellular DNA memory, it translates. And there's scientific proof of this. It's called the field of epigenetics. And it's a pretty new field, but it's backed by science and it's factual, right? So there's this whole bunch of stuff that we've inherited from our lineages and our ancestry that we have no idea. If we go back 7 generations, I'm a European guy. Someone in my family was swinging a big ass sword on a battlefield, literally drenched in blood, in order to preserve whatever life that they had, right? There's weird shit stuck in our epigenetics, right? And our lineage and our ancestry. Then there's your karma, right? And I might butcher these words, but there's the prabdha karma, which is like the karmic load that you've decided to take on in this life. And then I think it's called your sanchit karma, is kind of like your total load of karma, like of all lives past, and karma is just Newton's third law. Every action creates an equal and opposite reaction. If you've ever heard of the butterfly effect, blinking your eye creates a result somewhere else in the universe, right? And everything really is all connected, and I could go way down that rabbit hole. But just knowing that, so how does your karma actually impact you on a physical sense? Well, your karma between lives, it sticks into things called samskars. Think of a samskar as just like congealed karma, right? Congealed energy. And that congealed energy can go with the soul out of the body and then back with the soul into a new body, into a new life, right? So you can start a life off already with these patterns ingrained in you, and everybody does. It's a function of nature. And also that karma, what my master says about karma, I haven't seen this in my own consciousness, but this is how he's described it, is that karma literally plays out in your body by the energy of karma infuses into our DNA, and then the DNA infuses into our unconscious actions. I'm a big believer that we don't have free will. I don't believe in free will. I really don't. Because at the highest level of spiritual realization, where you truly understand there's so many layers. There's 36 layers in this one type of philosophy called Tattva Shaivism. I think I'm saying that right. We've got earth, wind, water, fire, air, elements, right? And we've got the 5 senses, and there's actually 10 senses in yoga. There's your sense of grasping, your sense of motion, walking, your sense of talking, your sense of procreation, and your sense of elimination. All of those are playing, our procreation is such a powerful biological force, right? That makes us do things, right? So our epigenetics are making us do things. Our subconscious beliefs are making us do things. Our karma is making us do things. And when you stack it all up, you realize like, okay, am I really making decisions right now? Like, am I really consciously? And then by the time you get to the level of consciousness where you would actually understand and see all of those dynamics clearly, then you're at the level of consciousness where you're one with the divinity to know that the divinity is the consciousness, is the creation, and it's an okay thing to not have free will. The ego is offended by that. It's like, I'm in control of my life, is what the ego says. This is not the ego's world, though. This is the divine's world. And you're divine, right? So the part of you that's one with the divine, it already created this life for you. It already said what is going to be the most epic learning, adventure, growth, experience possible for my soul and spirit in this life. And what can I take on, and who can be there, and what contracts can I have with other souls? And all of that was just, all created from a consciousness that is so much higher than your limited ego mind, right? So when I say I don't believe in free will, it's because I'm thinking about, whose will is it? And am I God realized in this body right now? Like, no. And if I was, I would see the perfect plan that I put into place and how perfect it all is. Another way I'll describe that, and sorry, I know we want to get to techniques.
It's like right when I think I got it, and I'm like, oh no, I don't got it.
Okay, here's a way that makes it simple that my guru describes it.
Okay, please.
Human beings are here, and we see present, past, future, right?
Got it.
Your God consciousness, or the divine, omnipresent, creative intelligence of all that is, the Lord and master of universes upon universes. There's science now, by the way, that shows the Big Bang was not the start of the universe, but the end of another universe and the start of a new universe. Like there's actually quantum physics that Nobel-winning prize quantum physicists are now claiming that, which yogis already knew. The universal cycle is creation, sustaining, dissolution. Creation, sustaining, dissolution. It's universes upon universes, right? But the being that is omnipresent beyond all of that you are one with, that you truly are at the heart of hearts, that being is not here in past, present, future land.
Yeah.
That being is here, going past, present, future are all one eternal moment.
So is that the higher self?
That's your higher self.
Would you call that? Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I like to call it your higher self.
I love that too.
Because it's not, when people hear the words like God or the divine creator, they think of, the man on the cloud with the beard, or they think of anything external of themselves. Oh, the universe. The universe is folded within you, right? Like look at the iris of an eye. It looks like a galaxy, right? Like there's little hints put in and encoded into this experience. Look at your the alveola of your lungs. Is that what they're called? The things that take in oxygen. I'm forgetting my 8th grade biology.
I'll go with that.
They look like rivers, and how rivers, expand, and
They do,
everything in your body looks like something out in nature, something out in the cosmos. You know what I mean? So it's all a hint that like the cosmos are within you. And the yogis obviously know this, and I like calling it your higher self because then there's the self in there. So the little self, the lowercase s, goes like, yeah, that's me, right? But we're talking about the capital S self, which is not the me. It's the me.
Us.
It's the we. It's the is. My guru calls it the isness, the presence. And that's what you really are. So anyway, the reason I brought that up is because we think past, present, future. Your higher self sees one eternal moment. So where's the free will in that? Now I know we have to be co-creators with our higher self. I know that we're here to have that experience of bridging that connection and to have the experience of creation. I just think that we already created the creation from a much higher consciousness than now we're going to get to witness and mire at the creation as we have the experience of co-creating with our creation. But it's really already, in my opinion, been set into motion by by who you really are.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to connect to yourself and to just listen. And when you're listening, you kind of do have no will. You're like, I know I should do that, but I'm going to do that anyway. I'm going to do this bad habit anyway. So you're right. If you're just listening, you don't have any will. You have control over your actions, but are you going to listen to that voice? You're going to listen to the higher voice.
And a big thing that I did many years back, I think around 2011, 2012, I made this unconditional commitment to listen to my intuition and follow it no matter what.
I love that you said unconditional commitment. Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of times the intuition will tell you to do something that your mind will be like, no.
And you're like, fuck, nope.
No.
Nope. Yeah, maybe later.
Go have this difficult conversation with that person. And the mind is like, no.
Yeah. But you know you should.
But you know you should, and because I made my unconditional commitment to follow my intuition, I do it. Or call this person, or talk to this person, or go here now, or don't go here now, or stop this habit, or start this habit, like all of that. Literally, I use muscle testing as a way, a lot of people muscle test different ways. You can muscle test like that. It's a whole other technique I could teach, but it's a great way to bridge your kinesiology into... to use kinesiology or sense of touch to make your intuition, which is sort of intangible, something tangible. For whatever reason, it doesn't work for about 10% of people, they found. But for 90% of people, it's a very, very rock solid way to bridge that gap of communication with your intuition. And yeah, following it unconditionally. So then where's my free will, right?
Well, your free will, I guess, is
whether or not I choose to do that.
Is your choice.
Yeah, but then, and I agree with that idea, but then, I made the choice to unconditionally follow my intuition. What's that choice based on? It's based on my epigenetics. It's based on my karma. It's based on the teachers that I've had in this lifetime and others. I didn't choose to be, from my physical self, I didn't choose to be born into a family that would put me into landmark education at 9 years old. That was chosen from my higher self. And based on that, landmark education is very much about integrity, right? And about keeping your word. And like based on being introduced to those teachings at 9 years old, maybe that's playing somehow into me making this choice at 20 whatever years old to so there's every teacher I've ever been exposed to, including the random teachers I show up to in school, who might have actually imparted some sort of wisdom into me at some point, right? The books I've chosen to read or not read, why did I choose them? Why did they show up? Why did they resonate with me? My soul already chose it. Certain books, you pick them up and you're like, I have to read this.
Yep.
Other books, it's like, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. Everybody in the business world has read it. I haven't. Oh my God, so faux pas to say as a CEO, but I haven't. I've seen it, heard about it. I know it's good. It's never spoken to my soul, and I never picked it up to read it, right? And that, did I make that decision, or did my higher self make that decision? And so,
yeah, you just chose to listen.
Yeah, another way I like to illustrate this is, with the free will conversation, I like to imagine like, okay, that's bullshit. I could pick up this crystal right now and stab it into my eye, right? I could choose to do that. And it's like, but again, where's the decision going to come from?
Yeah.
It's going to come from layer after layer after layer after layer after layer of unconscious stuff. And by unconscious, I don't only mean in your unconscious patterns in your unconscious mind. I mean like things that we are not consciously aware of, like our epigenetics, like our karma, like, our lineage, our cellular memory, our belief patterns, all these things, right? Our emotional debris, all of that is playing into that decision. And so who's deciding?
Yeah.
It's definitely not me and the little lowercase me, and it's definitely not you, the little lowercase you,
And we wonder why we're all so anxious and depressed and confused.
Because we're trying to control everything.
Yeah.
Surrender, aparigraha, I believe, is the Sanskrit word for it. I might be butchering that too, though. It might be a different principle. It's one of the yamas and niyamas, like the two foundations of like Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga. Surrender is one of the keys. Surrendering to what? Not surrendering your will so that you're a slave. Surrendering your will to the higher version of you that will liberate you of your worries, your anxieties, your fears, your frustrations, your doubts, your insecurities, right? The part of you that will be Christ-like, even if your body is being destroyed by idiots. That part of you is what you're surrendering to. And that to me seems like a worthwhile thing to work on, And part of that is like, okay, I'm surrendering to the fact that whatever my intuition says, I'm going to follow that, no matter what. Moving out here to Utah, you saw how much resistance there was in the form of my family, unfortunately in the form of my wife, who loves it here now, but she was having a real tough time.
That was wild.
It was almost like, I'm leaving time, but like I couldn't, it wasn't even me doing it in my experience. It was just like, this is what feels true. And of course, now that we're here and we're living such a beautiful life and we have a baby on the way, beautiful house and all these things, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, this is supposed to happen, clearly.
Yeah.
Like God wanted to give us massive gifts and there was resistance around it, Literally had my family calling me a bully, saying that I was bullying my wife into moving here. I'm like, guys, I'm just trying to follow my intuition over here, like, and it was like tumult, but it's no fault of their own. They're dealing with their own humanness, and I had to do what felt true, And I think that's when we get into trouble in life, is when we start to neglect what feels true.
Yes, totally, totally.
So, do we have time to go through at least one technique?
Yeah, which one should we do? Recoding or tapping? If those are two you think would be worthwhile.
I'm going to speak to tapping because, there's a whole different, recoding. You can pick up a book called You Are Not Broken by Chris Duncan. He has a couple beautiful teachers, and he synthesized their work into a process and a framework that I think is beautiful. And I'm taking his work and turning it into my own unique version of doing his method. So it's beautiful work. But tapping is something that I really love because it's so tangible. To do that recoding work, you have to sort of form this connection with your higher self. And, I feel like that would just take longer than we have right now to like really bring people into that space.
Yeah.
But so tapping, you might have heard of it. You might have thought it looked goofy. It's called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique. It's also called like psychological acupressure because you're dealing with meridians in the body, energy channels in the body, and you're tapping on them, which actually sends energetic signals down the channels, right? And so basically how I like to use tapping is for relief of the grief, right? Or for implanting new and empowering things. And, you know, I think probably the best thing I could do, just for the sake of anyone who's watching, is like I just shot a 3-part video course that I'm putting into an online members area and I'm making available for free for everybody for my tapping hacks thing.
Awesome. Can we put that in? Can I put that in the show notes?
Yeah, because like I was just, you know, I literally spent 40 minutes over the course of 3 videos teaching this technique in detail.
Yes.
And I was just about to teach it, but I was like, am I really going to do it justice trying to fit it into like the next 10 minutes or something?
That would be awesome if I'll put that in the show notes. What if you did a little test on me?
Sure. Absolutely.
Cool. And I'll be vulnerable, honest, whatever you need. I don't even know what you're about to do. So.
Okay. Well, we can do one of 2 things.
Okay.
We can use it to release something that isn't serving you, or we can use it to implant something that you would like to embody. Which one is feeling more like true for you right now as to the direction to go?
I just have this, sometimes it's large, sometimes it's tiny, but just this anxiety, just in my soul.
Yeah.
So
center your chest.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you feeling any of it right now?
Always.
Always.
Unless like on plant medicine or just in a great space.
Okay. So if you had to quantify that anxiety, Rue got you with her hair.
Oh, shit.
Hardcore.
Thanks, Rue.
All good.
Just hair.
Yeah, right.
We all got it.
Okay, so the anxiety, right?
Yes.
0 to 10, what would you classify it as right now? 0 to 10. Like 10 being there's so much anxiety, my whole body feels gripped by it. Absolutely. 0 being it's not there at all.
It's a 4.
Cool. So here, I'll just take you through tapping. And then again, the people, you know, watching, they can rock the show notes to like really learn what we're doing.
Hell yeah.
But you can just follow along with me.
Cool.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is hit this point right here. And we're going to say, even though I have this anxiety, and you can just follow after me.
Even though I have this anxiety,
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
Even though I have this anxiety,
even though I have this anxiety,
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
And even though I have this anxiety,
and even though I have this anxiety,
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
I fully love, honor, and accept myself.
And anybody else who taught me to hold this anxiety.
And anybody else who taught me to hold this anxiety.
So now just follow along with me, tapping on these points, and lightly, it doesn't have to be hard. Just follow along with me and focus on the anxiety. So first right here, it's like inner of the eyebrow. Mm-hmm. Just thinking about this anxiety. And you can say to yourself, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And we're going to do about 15, 20 taps per spot. And we're going to the next spot right here on the side of the eye. All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And we're going to say under here, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
We don't have to be creative with it. We're just focusing on the anxiety and tapping on the spots. Now above the lip right here, it's like the mustache point. Yep, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Now right here, it's like where the chin and the lip come together, that little line.
I'm already feeling more peaceful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you will.
Wow.
All this anxiety.
All this anxiety. Wow.
And now where the collarbone comes down into like a U, right there, on either side, you can just go like this, like use your palm and just hit them both. All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And now, like, height of the nipple on the side body, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And now, like, rib cage just under the breast, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety. All this anxiety.
And the last point is like, I call it the yarmulke spot. It's like back center of the head, but towards the back. All this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And just kind of hit all around that area. Now we're going to do all those points one more time.
Okay.
So side of the eyebrow, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And the side of the eye, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
and underneath the eye, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Mustache point, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Chin point, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Collarbone spot, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
Side body, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety. You're like falling asleep.
Oh yeah, it's relaxing, huh?
All this anxiety.
Rib cage spot, all this anxiety. Staying focused on that anxiety.
All this anxiety. Thanks for the reminder.
And one last spot, focusing on the anxiety. Back of the head, all this anxiety.
All this anxiety.
And then you take a nice deep breath in. And you let it go. And now check in on that anxiety that was like a 4 out of 10. What would you say it is now?
A 1, and it's not just here now, it's kind of spread around, which is nice because it feels like balance.
Okay, so you've got a 1. Do you want to do one more round and take it to a 0, or should we leave that there for the sake of this combo? Either one I'm cool with.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
I'm solid with it, yeah.
Yeah, and that actually is a really good teaching point for our audience. The ego, when you're doing this technique, will almost always chime in at somewhere when it gets down to like a 1 or 2 or a 3. The ego will chime in and be like, I think that's good. Like, I'm good. That's enough. You know, and I'm not, faulting you so we can keep going with the combo.
Yeah.
But just so the audience is aware, the analogy I like to use with this is like, if you had a fire in your kitchen, would you want to put that fire mostly out or all the way out? All the way out, right? Yeah. So I just use that as an example because the ego does this. Because who are you without this anxiety? Someone different. And the ego is always resisting this change.
Interesting.
So it'll always come in when you've got like a 1 or 2 or a 3 and be like, that's good enough. It's not an 8 anymore. It feels much better. Let's stop there. And my encouragement is to always, with this technique, keep repeating the process of what you just did, setting up here and tapping through the points twice and doing as many rounds as it takes to get all the way down to a 0, because that's when the transformation will hit.
Got it.
For real.
Okay.
But
totally.
This is a great example of just showing like, okay, you came from a 4 to a 1 in 1 round. It took 3 minutes.
So awesome. That's cool.
Right? And so if you did another round, it would almost certainly go from a 1 to a 0.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes, it'll go from an 8, it'll stay, it's an 8, and it'll still be an 8 after 2 rounds of tapping. And that's fine. You just keep going. Eventually, it'll become a 7, a 6, 5. It will. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen anything that resisted and would not move, if you just kept going with it. Okay. And what you'll typically see is it'll go down by like 2 points per 2 rounds. Like you'll do what we just did and it'll go from a 4 to a 2, and then you'll do it again and it'll go from a 2 to a 0.
And that took what, like 2 minutes?
Exactly. And I mean, if you're nervous about speaking on stage, or you've got some big presentation, or, every time, you're sleeping with your husband, like you have to have the lights off because you feel anxious about your body, or whatever it is, you can go like, okay, how anxious about my body do I feel? Well, 9 out of 10. That's why I make them turn off the lights. Great. Or you could have more intimacy if you just did tapping, took that 9 out of 10 down to 0 out of 10, and now you're free. You're free of that energy, of that belief system. And I use this for taking out emotional and energetic debris that's stuck in the body. And I also use this for deprogramming limiting beliefs, right? So like if you believe for something like, for example, if I had the belief, I'm not good enough, and I check in authentically, 0 to 10, 10 being I absolutely resonate with that, 0 being not at all, I'm not good enough. Well, like for me, it's a 0, but at another time, I've probably already done the work on this one. Yeah. It might have been a 6, right? Then you can tap that 6 down to 0, and now I'm not good enough is not only not true in your mind, which of course we all know, like intuitively, like consciously. Of course, that's not true, right? But now it's true in your body, right? And that's the thing that I love about tapping is that I don't believe something is true for you unless it's true for you in your mind, your heart, and your gut, or if it's true for you in your body, you know? Because someone could say like, "I'm the best," but you can feel, no, you're not,
Yeah.
behind it, right?
Yeah.
Which is why affirmations suck, because if you just look in the mirror and go like, "You're the best," 95% of you wants to believe it and does believe it, and 5% of you is going bullshit. And that 5% of you that's saying bullshit is the difference maker between you flowing towards your results or constantly finding yourself sidetracking, kind of getting stuck, kind of feeling like crap, whatever it is, right? So I use this for taking beliefs out of the body and implanting beliefs into the body.
Is it the same process?
Same process.
Okay.
Like if I was going to say like, I'm a limitless creator, you know, of infinite potential. And I go, how true is that really for me? Oh, it's like a 3. Wouldn't it be nice for that to be a 10 out of 10 true? Mm-hmm. So then I'll literally go like, cool. Like, even though I don't believe I'm a limitless creator of infinite potential, fully love, honor, and accept myself 3 times, setup statement. I'm a limitless creator of infinite potential. I'm a limitless creator of infinite potential. Like, and in my tapping hacks, you know, giveaway, I show people how to do this a lot faster too. The secret is I use 2 hands. So I'll literally be like, these 2 spots, these 3 spots, these 2 spots, these 2 spots, and it happens more than twice as fast that way.
Awesome.
Which I've never seen anybody else teach. So I'm like, I feel like I invented that, which is fun.
That's so funny.
So, but yeah. Anyway,
that's great.
Much more details on all of like how to do that is in the tapping 3 videos, and they're all just on a site for free. So
perfect. I'll put that in the show notes.
Sweet.
I guess I'll just go to my final questions if that's cool.
Of course.
Well, I wanted to ask you about how does it feel about to be a father?
Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my God. Last night we were singing to the baby because we have this song that we sing to her every night. And yeah, she was just like saying hello to me, you know, like where I put my hand, she just started like kicking and she did like 3, 4, 5 good kicks, like right where I put my hand. And I was just like, oh, hello in there, you know, I can't wait.
Have you ever had a feeling like that? The feeling you have now about to be a father? Is it like unexplainable?
Yeah, I think it is. Like, it'll probably be even more real for me when I'm holding my baby.
Of course. Probably would be like how you're feeling now times a million.
Yeah, I'm sure. And also a part of me wants to say that, like, there's a blissfulness that you can access that can be true for you all the time, that is higher than any bliss that you can experience from any worldly experience. You know, I truly see this child as a child of God, as a child of divinity, as one with my higher self. You know, and so the feelings that a lot of people might feel of like pride, like look what I created, or like, you know, or just like attachment, like this is my pride and joy, like it's, you know, like it's not my job to take care of her, it's God's job to take care of her, and I'm a pawn in that endeavor, you know what I mean? But like I don't imagine myself to be the caretaker of this child, if that makes any sense.
Wow.
You know, I'll give an example that my guru gave about how we don't really like control things. There's an example from when that tsunami hit in Southeast Asia and Indonesia. I think it was like 2006, or, you know, a lot of people died. Hundreds of thousands of people died. And there's 2 stories that came out of that tsunami where one mother, she grabbed her baby in her arms. She ran up to the 4th story of a building, and the wave came and the water crashed through the window, ripped the baby out of her arms, never to be seen again. Right? And then contrast that to another mother who wasn't home when the wave hit, and her baby was found floating on a piece of wood on top of the water and was rescued and lived. And it's like this example that illustrates like that there's a divine control happening, you know? And so I'm obviously grateful. I'm so grateful to have the experience of being a father, to, you know, bring the soul into the world and teach her how to meditate and how to be a good person and how to follow her dreams and all of that. And at the same time, I'm just finding that, you know, when I'm really on my spiritual practice and I'm really, you know, charging myself up with the divine juice, if you want to call it that, each day, it's all one big bliss love fest, you know? It's, you know, and I'm not there by any means. Like, with all humility, I have even today, I didn't wake up early enough to meditate. My dog woke me up 6 times last night for some reason. I came here like, what a day, right?
Yeah.
When we sat down. Now, after talking about all these high principles, I'm like juiced. This was a meditation for me, right?
Love it. Oh, I got goosebumps. 'Cause that's how I want this to be for my guests, and that's how it is for me. So.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And when I'm speaking, I'm really getting out of the way as much as I can and just following like what's the stream want to do and say. Like I don't even remember half of what I've probably said on this, right?
Shit, me neither. But I watch it back and learn more and more about you.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, I guess I just find it like I'm by no means at this level of mastery, and I'm sure I'll feel plenty of human emotions about my daughter being born. And at the same time, I think that the highest emotions that we can carry are love, unconditional love, and bliss. I think that's what kids teach people about is unconditional love, right? Because when you're holding a baby, how can this baby not be good enough? How can it be wrong? How can it be bad? How can it be indignant? How can it be contemptible? It can't possibly be any of that. And when it's your own child and you see it born, it's not somebody else's child who then at 14 years old is a terrorist, and that's all we know it as. That's a terrorist. No, everybody starts off as this pure baby of divinity, right? And so we learn about unconditional love because no matter what that baby does, no matter what kind of little teen asshole it becomes at some point, which, by the way, that's the parents' fault, in my opinion. It's yes, just got to add that. Like, don't ever blame your child for the person they become. Take responsibility for making them someone that you like. You know what I mean? Just straight up. But that baby moment where we see them as divinity is what lights us up about babies. And it's like, and if you have that awareness all the time, like my guru says, like, see God, feel God, live God, love God, know God, walk God, talk God. Like, and even my mentor talks about it. Like, literally, what's the divine thing that we can see all the time? You can hear what we're hearing. You can also hear the ever-present hum of the cosmic Om. It's behind everything. You can actually, there's sounds in each one of your chakras that if you're attuned to that subtlety, you can actually hear them. There's sounds of rushing.
I did not know that.
Yeah, each one has a different one, and I forget them sometimes. But like one of them has like a buzzing bee sound. One of them sounds like a waterfall, like rushing water. Like they all have different sounds. And when you're that level of attuned to your cosmic nature, you can literally hear it. So you can hear God. You can see God. Like I can see you, and I can see me, and I can see our separation in space. And I can also see like the epic divinity and synchronicity of this moment. I can see, the space between the atoms, and if that makes any sense. And that's where I tune my consciousness to. And then my baby can be born and I can think, I'm a proud father. Look what I made. She's beautiful, isn't she? Or I can just be humble, grateful, blissful, peaceful, loving. Humble, grateful, blissful, peaceful, loving. No matter what, no matter if something happens to that child.
Is that kind of your motto, your mantra?
It's my hope and my prayer and my goal.
Do you repeat it in your mind during the day?
Loving, peaceful, blissful.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But it could be a useful mantra.
Yeah.
No, I mean mantras are huge.
Yeah.
Right now, every night, Danielle and I sing the Hanuman Chalisa, which is like a 40 verse Sanskrit mantra that brings beautiful blessings to the people who embrace it. And I'll wake up and it'll be playing in my head. Or the song that we sing to Lakshmi every night is a spiritual song that my mentor wrote for us to sing to her as like a tribal tradition. And I'll wake up in the morning and that'll be playing in my head.
Wow.
And then other people have a different soundtrack playing in their head, right? One that says, oh, my fucking boss.
Way different.
Yeah. Or like, I mean, when I was a kid, at one point, I think when I was like 12, 13 years old, do you remember the band Rage Against the Machine?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so their self-titled album, their best in my opinion. I literally used to listen to it while going to sleep.
Oh, God.
And I'm just like, always amazed when I think back to that time that like, dude, I was listening to like, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Like, scream rock, rap, Rage Against the Machine. I was literally listening to that in one of my most subconsciously programmable states. Also, another thing I did when I was a kid, which I would never recommend anyone doing, I used to watch the news when I was going to bed. Literally just fear.
I can't even watch.
Being put into you while you're like falling asleep and being much more receptive to programming. You know, so maybe I woke up with "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" playing in my head when I was a kid. You know, and that what does that create? It creates separation. You know, it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate them, but I certainly wouldn't listen to them on repeat like I did when I was 12, because everything has vibration. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. I can listen to beautiful music that attunes my mind to divine concepts and divine consciousness, or I can listen to "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." Which one takes me closer to my goals in the world? You know, which is my main problem with hip hop music. Even though I grew up listening to it and I love it, what are you programming into yourself?
I know. I like listening to rap music when I work out, and I'm really listening now. I'm just like, shit, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this for much longer.
As you become more and more like attuned, it's not even about spiritual, like being super spiritual, y'all.
It's consuming that is not helpful.
It's vibration. It's a vibrational frequency. Everything, you know, like the Hawkins scale, right? Everything has a vibrational frequency that is measurable, 0 to 1,000. You know, and 1,000 is like ultimate enlightened being, right? Like one with God consciousness. And a 0 would be like, you know, utter hopelessness, despair, self-loathing, hatred, you know, that kind of stuff. And you can measure institutions. You can measure, and they've done it using, you know, double-blind studies and muscle testing, and they've actually been able to scientifically measure the vibrational rating 0 to 1,000. This is all in a book called Power versus Force, and you can measure what is the vibrational resonance of this learning institution, or that music group, or this specific song, or that specific food, or this specific idea, or this specific government, or whatever, and you can gauge their frequencies. You know, where 700 on that 1,000 scale is where you start to really get into the frequencies of like love and enlightenment and you know, and the concepts we're talking about. So it's why alcohol doesn't resonate with me anymore. You know, as I got more and more into my martial arts, into my clean eating, into my meditation, I drank less and less and less. And now, you know, the last time I drank, it was because just like 2 sips of wine, I felt my vibration plummet. I felt sluggish. I felt blah. I didn't feel like light and happy. I felt like, ugh. And then so like, you know, I haven't drank alcohol in 10 years plus, and it's not because like, oh, I really made this big commitment to not do it. It just stopped feeling good.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, marijuana, for example, is a much higher vibration than alcohol. Like I think I remember testing alcohol in like the 300s, and marijuana was in somewhere in the 700s. You know, so there's a reason why that medicine, you know, stuck with me longer. You know, and you know, different components of it too, between THC, CBD, CBN, all these different cannabinoids, they all have their own vibrations, you know, so it's all just about where your vibration set point is, and then things take you up, things take you down. Sometimes it's fun to go down. Sometimes it's fun to eat a donut, you know, get your Krispy Kreme on, which I'm convinced have like neurochemicals in them, because I feel weird. Like I eat sugar sometimes, right? But when I eat a Krispy Kreme, I feel weird the next day.
Weird like how?
Weird like my brain feels weird. And I mean, there are neurotoxins in the food supply in America. Like that's a fact. Like if you look at some of the stuff, I mean, first off, aspartame is a neurotoxin. It's in every diet soda. And I mean, and it's a neurotoxin. And I've messed myself up with that in college actually by drinking too much Diet Pepsi while I was studying to be an engineer. Side story. But you know, like I think Reese's Pieces now have like this thing in it called like XRT. Like, what the hell is that?
Is it just to make it cheaper to produce?
Who knows what the intentions are? I'm sure that's a big factor. Maybe keeping everyone dumb and compliant is part of it too. But you know, that gets into tinfoil hat wearing land. So who knows?
Yeah.
You know, but why is there fluoride in our water? You know, why is there?
My anxiety is going up.
Exactly. We don't need to go down that rabbit hole. We don't. But, you know, at the very least, it's because of negligence, carelessness, profit over purpose, greed, whatever. You know, at the very least, we can make it less, you know, master planning and more just like humans are pretty fucking dumb overall.
Yeah.
Like, you know, George Carlin used to say, and obviously this is like a rude way to say it, but George Carlin joke was, think about how dumb the average person is. He's like, then think about the fact that 50% of people are even dumber than that.
Oh, wow. It's easier to stomach when I think about it that way.
It's a joke, right? It's funny. But yeah, if average means 50% and that's pretty dumb. You know, the average below, you know, so it's not to judge people. It's just to be aware that, you know, why are things messed up? Because humans overall, we're pretty stupid and we learn by our mistakes. That's evolutionary how humans progress. We make a mistake and we go, that didn't work, and we back up and we go a different direction. That is, and if we can look at history and learn from our mistakes, that's how we can consistently progress. You know, and that's actually how you can identify the successfulness of a species, is like their willingness to learn not by their own foils and failures, but to like look at other species in history and to like learn from others, and to actually apply what they learn and not have to make the same mistakes. It's a huge leg up, right? So yeah, we can simplify it. We don't have to get all conspiracy theory, you know.
Sounds good, because when you started getting deep, I literally felt, I was like, I gotta go tap again. I'm just gonna start tapping.
Yeah, you can, you know.
I know,
really
like
just
while
yeah,
Noah was speaking, I just start tapping.
Yeah.
No offense, but hey.
Hey, you know, at the end of the day, remember, you're an immortal soul. You cannot be, you know, you cannot be destroyed. You are literally immortal, indestructible.
Self-healer.
Self-healer,
Yes.
Exactly. So,
Yes.
You know, through all the craziness we've all been going through, you know, with COVID and everything, yeah, it sucks. Like, people are dying. People are losing family members, you know. And I think that a way that I stay high is to remember that I'm not playing a one lifetime game. Like, none of us are playing a one lifetime game.
That's way past long-term game.
Exactly.
I like
Don't even just
that.
think about long-term in this life. I like to think about, okay, like the Buddha said that the amount of times it would take a bird flying and carrying a silken scarf, wisping it over the top of a mountain, the amount of times it would take that bird to wear down that mountain by doing that is the amount of times you've lived. That's what the Buddha said, right? It's just a way to concept. You've lived so many times. You've incarnated so many times for so many lessons. If you're on a podcast like this, listening to spiritually awakening content, and you have that soul desire for awakening, it's because you've already fulfilled all the other desires. You've had the name, you've had the fame, you've had the shame, you've had the guilt, you've been the murderer, you've been the murdered, you've done it all, and now it's time to wake up, right? Because
Wow,
that's
you
the
just
highest.
made me feel super powerful.
Yeah, you've done it all.
Wow.
I'm sure you've already been a king and a queen. You've been a peasant and a laborer.
I feel like I've been a rapper too, like a
Probably been
big
a
time. Like
rapper.
I don't even know if they're female
Like
or
a
male.
16th century rapper.
No, like
Listen up, y'all.
does it have to
Ye
be
better-
way later, in the past life?
No. Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
You know, I don't know how long there always is between incarnations, but like there's plenty of stories. Incarnation is a fact, by the way. There's plenty of scientifically, psychologically studied young children who come into this life with past life memories. And we're talking about 3, 4, 5-year-olds who are like, Mommy, I was in an airplane just like that. You know, Mommy, the boat that my airplane took off from was called, El Capitan. And then they go and they find that's a boat in World War II.
Yeah,
and
how
like,
else would they know that?
they literally know and like these
Wow.
are psychologically, scientifically studied children. There's hundreds and hundreds of these where they know esoteric, impossible to know facts from past lives of esoteric people. Like, we're not talking like, I was Abraham Lincoln and I chopped a cherry tree with an axe. No, it's like, I was this random backup dancer on Broadway who had a love affair with this person, who had daughters named this, and they know all the, I drove a car that looked like this, and I lived in this part of New York, and I really liked getting my coffee at this restaurant, and like, they know all these things. And then they usually lose that awareness by like 6, 7, 8 years old as the ego starts to really solidify. That little window kind of closes down on them. They start to realize like, oh, people think I'm weird for knowing this stuff. So they start to close it down even
To
more.
fit in.
Yeah. But these are scientifically studied cases that, to me, that proves reincarnation. And the gurus and the masters, they've always talked about reincarnation. I mean,
Yeah.
forever. Like it's just a fact.
Yeah.
Energy can't be created or destroyed. When you see a dead body, when you've been to a funeral, is that the same person you knew when they were alive? Like, no, there's something missing, right? And even like in these near-death experiences where people die and they're brain dead for, even 20, 30 minutes. Well, the brain is dead. There's no blips on the functioning meters, but they're having these massive experiences, these traveling through the portal and all that, and then they come back into their body to tell about it. Well, if the brain was dead, then obviously the brain is not where our consciousness resides. Right? Our consciousness is aware of the brain. Our consciousness is thinking about the brain, and uses the brain. You know, my guru says that to a realized yogi, the brain is like a perfectly trained dog. It sits when you tell it to sit. It barks when you tell it to bark. It calculates when you tell it to calculate. It's a tool. It's a device. It's a part of the human anatomy, but it's not your consciousness. It's not who you are.
And the issue is that most of us are letting our minds run our lives.
Yeah,
I'm just barely getting out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are living from the head up or the neck up.
Yep.
Right, but the truth is we have a neural network in our heart and we have a neural network in our gut.
Yes.
And that's why people say like I just know in my heart, or like, you know, I feel it in my gut, or I trust my gut. Like you literally have brains in those areas. They just don't think in thoughts. They think in feelings. So, but they have neural networks, just like your brain is a neural network. So we have 3 brains, and really I like to think that we have 4 brains, because our brain up here has 2 hemispheres, and it's connected by this super thin shred of tissues. And the left brain is where your whole ego and your identity lives, and your analytical nature, your ability to calculate, to forecast, to plan. Your right brain is where all your creativity is, and where your divine connection is, and your soul self resides, and your like higher conscious awareness is, you know. And really your soul self resides at the center of your core of your heart, but like your creative consciousness is in your brain. And so like they're two totally different things too, you know. And there's people who've had like that woman with that famous TED talk where she's a brain scientist and she woke up with a brain aneurysm in her left hemisphere, and her whole analytical sphere closed down, and she was just going off in these cosmic blissful awakening, because your ego resides, your sense of identity and self resides in your left brain. So when your sense of identity disappears, your cosmic self is all that remains, because that's who you really are. You know, so people have proven all these things. Now, the real game and the real like call to action is, are you going to take the steps on a daily basis to self-realize?
Exactly.
To realize this stuff for yourself consciously, on purpose.
Yeah.
Not because you got trapped in a kayaking accident or you had a brain aneurysm, because that's what God does when you're not listening. You know, like cancer. To me, cancer is the wake up that you needed. If you live through it, you know, if you don't, this was your soul's way to exit, right? But if you live through it, it's like, cool, there's more for you. Like, wake up, see that there's more for you, right? I really think that that's a big wake up call for a lot of people who go through it,
definitely.
you know? So that's...
And then if they do pass, it's a wake up call for everyone in their lives.
Yeah, take care of myself. Focus on, you know, we don't have, tomorrow's not promised. Tomorrow isn't promised, right? Like, and it's just not. And we don't know when our time ends. And, you know, the Stoics say, what, memento mori or something? I need to learn these things better. But
It sounds good to me.
it basically means, like, life is fragile, and, like seize the moment. Like, you will die someday.
Yeah,
period.
be present.
But your soul will never die, and your consciousness will never die. And so that's coming back to where this all even came from, was I like to literally think about my actions and my focuses on a multi-lifetime timeline, right? So things I'm working towards right now, I don't care if I achieve them in this life or the next, you know. And and Yogananda said,
wow.
yeah, right, why not?
Yeah.
And Yogananda said that when you go to heaven, you don't become an angel. It's not like you leave your body and then you gain these wings and this virtue and this beautiful heart emerges. When you leave this body, you're pretty much who you were in this body. The consciousness that leaves this body is pretty much the consciousness that you are out of this body. And so Yogananda's encouragement was, become an angel now. Like, in this life, in this body, in this moment, seek that higher consciousness with everything you've got. You know, Buddha said, row your ships. Like, this is not a place of, you know, Yogananda called this world the world of 3 sorrows. Earth is a place, it's a training camp. Think of it as boot camp. It is a place of emotional, mental, and physical suffering. That's what this place offers. Straight up. Everyone you ever know or care about will leave. Everything you ever know or care about will deteriorate. This whole earth will be gone at some point. Our star, our sun will explode. Everything will be gone. But what will never leave is your soul consciousness and who you become as a result of your efforts that you can make starting right now, right? And that, to me, is the multi-lifetime game. I don't care if I get enlightenment in this life or the next. I just know that when I leave this body, I'm going to be the closest to a holy person that I've ever been in all my lifetimes past, and I'll get to start from that base in my next life if I'm incarnating again. You know, and even beyond the three-dimensional plane, there's work and life and experience that happens in higher and higher realms. You know, in fourth dimension, fifth dimension, etc. Right? So like, this is just the starting point of the game. This is the boot camp, right? Just like boot camp is the start of your military service, Earth life is the start of your beingness as an individual.
So if you become as close to an angel as possible in this lifetime, how will that impact your next lifetime? In a selfish way.
Yeah, well, in a selfish way, you'll come here with a lot of that karma already worked out. And so, you know, there's good karma and there's bad karma. All karma in total, like, keeps you from leaving samsara, right? Which is like the birth, rebirth, death cycle of kind of like going through this intense life experience on Earth where we feel separated, where we feel alone, where we feel vulnerable, weak, where we feel, you know, corruptible, diseasable, all these things. You know, it's pretty intense. But you never have this level of intensity at higher realms because, you know, even if you're just in 4D, you know, like, I'm an energetic being, right? I'm not destroyable. I'm
you know that and you don't forget it. Like
exactly.
You do here.
Here the great forgetting happens.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen in other realms, even if there's more work to be done, you know? So, that's the rub, is that, like, you know, my guru says that every one of his YouTube videos starts with this quote: "The only purpose of man or woman's sojourn on this earth is to seek God." And I like to take God, call it whatever you want, but it's that divine indweller. It's who you really are. Seek your highest self. He says, and he's not a man to chew words, you know what I mean? When he says the only purpose, he doesn't mean like, yeah, on a Sunday, that's the only purpose. On Monday, it's about work and bills and ice cream, right? Like, no, the only purpose in every given moment is to seek your divine indweller. And if you can do that effectively, then you can actually know your divine indweller in a way that can never be unknown. That's self-realization, right? And that's the highest goal of a human life. And when you reach that goal, you can either choose to reincarnate again to be of service to humanity. That would be like a Jesus or a Buddha, right? Those beings didn't come here with any karma of their own to work out or any learnings of their own to work out. They came here to serve humanity. They came here to be a beacon of spiritual energy, vibrations, light, and love for the world, to be master teachers, right? So you can either play in that game or not, and you know your soul's going to figure that out from higher consciousness. But I would say that probably most humans that liberate themselves come back at least one more time to like pay it forward. You know, I know a couple beings that my master has said are liberated beings, and they've lived pretty intense lives. They're like doing work for the world. You know, like. So
work for the world,
yeah, and that's what we're all doing. You know, I forgot the quote exactly. I think it was Gandhi who said that someone who is living in a vibration of pure love shatters the hatred of millions. You know, and that is how it works. That's why there's only like one Jesus for every 50 million people who want to you know, throw rocks and sticks and covet thy neighbor's wife and blah blah blah, right? Like, it's, you know, there's beings of vibrational, unconditional love and bliss that hold the weight of humanity. They, you know, right now, there are yogis sitting in caves in the Himalayas who are of such high vibration, who nobody knows about, who've dedicated their entire lives to like meditation and literally just holding the container for this planet. You know, and that's the only reason why we haven't all set the nukes on each other and destroyed ourselves. Because there are beings of massive vibrational love that are helping us to slowly but surely evolve ourselves as a humanity, as a collective, to realize ourselves as one human family where breath is our uniting prayer and consciousness is our uniting God and humanity is our uniting religion. You know, that's my master's like creed, is like, let us all realize that humanity, our uniting religion, right? Because religion is something that binds you. What really binds all of us? Well, we're all part of the human family. Breath is our uniting prayer. Everyone can breathe. Everyone can breathe the spinal breathing process that's Kriya Yoga. everyone has access to their divine indweller, right? And consciousness are uniting God. Like, we are all one with consciousness. And that is the only true God, if you want to call it that, right? Whatever word works. But, you know, so, and when we realize those three things, we're going to be much better off as humanity, you know?
Totally. Totally. You're not going to want to hurt anyone if you're in that mindset.
Why would you want to hurt yourself?
Oh, exactly.
If I know I'm one with you, why would I want to hurt you? You know, and like that famous phrase, it's only hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
If you realize yourself, there's no hurt left. So you would never hurt someone. You know, and these principles that are like high ideals that we look at as like virtues, like, wow, what a virtuous being who would never hurt another being, and what a virtue. When you realize yourself, they're not virtues. They're just like logical.
What does your guru call it? Isms?
No, he calls the divine spirit the isness.
Okay.
It just is. It is the isness.
I just
right?
thought of that. Yeah. It's just, that's how it is.
Yeah,
Why would I do that? It doesn't make.
Exactly.
Do you have common
if I
sense?
literally know that you
It's
are
like
me,
common sense.
why would I hurt
Yeah.
you? That's like hurting me.
Yeah.
Why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
So you just see the way that
Exactly.
reality actually is and what nature really is, and you act accordingly. And to us lower human folk, we're like, wow, that's so virtuous and loving and kind. But to a realized being, it's like, this is just logical.
This is common sense.
This is common sense
Yeah.
to a being that's seeing from those eyes, you know?
Yeah. From up above.
Yeah.
Wow, Noah, wow. Okay, so this is part of the show where I like to just turn it to you again. If there's anything you feel called to share or ask me any questions or anything like that, you don't have to, but I like to just give you opportunity.
For sure. Well, I think I think what I want to share has been shared.
Yeah.
You know?
That's why I was laughing when I asked you. I knew.
Yeah. What I want to share has been shared, for sure. Is there anything that you want to share about like our topic today, or you know where you see this show going, or whatever's in your heart? That's what I feel.
Well, I just want to say thank you because I don't know what I was doing, but I got this download, and now it's my fucking motto. It's like my mantra, my motto, my affirmation. I don't care what. It's like it's where I'm focusing all the time in every area of my life, and there's nothing more important than letting go. There's nothing more important than letting go. And when I'm really struggling in the moment, I still follow it. I still let go, but sometimes it's so much harder than other times, and it's just painful to let go. And I was like, in my meditation, I said, just continue, spirit guides, continue to give me evidence that this is my path. As long as I follow this, I'll be good. And then everything you just said just was solidifying it. Left, right, left, right, left, right. So now I feel so filled up and good. So I just want to say thank you.
Hell yeah.
For
awesome.
Real. Yeah. Truth bumps everywhere. There's nothing more important than letting go. And that's kind of like my path to your path, you know? Because you're definitely on a higher level than I am. But that little mantra is going to get me closer to where you're at. And then you're going to initiate me and it'll be all good.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay,
I can't
cool.
wait to be able to offer that. You know, and if you're hungry to, you know, learn the technique sooner, we can go and see if there's any teachers around, you know, here or within a reasonable drive that could initiate you, you know, because I have no attachment to being like the one who teaches you these techniques. But as soon as you get initiated by somebody else, then I can jam on them with you and like talk about, you know, my experience with them doing them for 10 years.
Cool. I'll keep listening and I'll keep.
When the time is right, you'll know for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and just, you know, letting go, like a thing that I love to repeat that I've been told who knows how many times by how many people, but letting go and letting God. Like when you let go, by definition, when the ego lets go, who is now in control?
God.
Yeah, your higher self.
Higher self, yeah.
Exactly. And so I love that mantra. Like, and it's something that I'm always seeking to do as well, you know. Anytime that you're miserable, if you check in, you're almost always thinking a lot of thoughts about yourself and a lot of thoughts about control.
Oh, that's
like
it.
Holding on, right? Holding on to my self-identity, holding on, I deserve this. Why do I have this? This is not fair to me.
Why this person do that?
Yeah,
Could be anything.
Know, and now I want to control this. I want to manipulate this. But if you actually just let go, what you tend to focus on is service to others, and sending out love to others, and like that makes you feel good all the time because we're here to serve each other. Like that's what we're meant to do. Like we're multiple cells in the same organism. You know, if my immune system decided to just take a day off, that would probably be a problem. But it serves me every day, and some harmony is maintained in the body, right? Like, so yeah, I love that mantra. And
Thank you.
Appreciate you opening the space for this conversation. It was very, juicing to me as well. Like 100%.
Mission accomplished.
100%.
So you do a lot. So where the viewers are for sure going to want to connect, I'll put the tapping link in the show notes and whatever other things you mentioned.
For sure.
But how can viewers connect more with you or check out Feel Good Hemp?
Feel Good Hemp, baby.
Whatever else you think.
FeelGoodHemp.org.
Yeah.
Our focus is on super high quality hemp products,
So
CBD
good.
products. You love our balm. It's the best on the market. It really is. And then we also add all kinds of coaching and like other tools for wellness that anyone who subscribes to our products, they get for free coaching and free like all these tools, so cool.
Hi, Mom.
So yeah, feelgoodhemp.org, and you can find my social on there, and we'll put in the show notes where to get this
Yep, I'll put it
the
all
tapping
down there.
stuff for free.
Cool.
Yeah.
Last question. What does a sacred pause mean to you? I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So
in the
simple.
Bhagavad Gita, which is like kind of like if the yogis had a Bible, they don't, but if they did, it would be the Bhagavad Gita. The strongest warrior on the side of like the good forces is the breath. I'm forgetting the Sanskrit name, but it basically translates to the breath. The breath is the strongest tool we have to slicing through the layers of our bullshit. So a sacred pause for me is like 5 seconds in, 5 seconds hold, 5 seconds out, 5 seconds hold, box breathing, that's a great way to just literally, like if you're in that place where your mind is gripping and you're like racing, that state we get in when we're triggered, that's a sacred pause right there. It's just, okay, breathe, then we'll, and land back in my body, land back in my heart, take some of the racing out of my head, and then what? Then we can listen to our greater intelligence.
Because then you're tapped back into that river and you're in flow.
Exactly.
And listen, and then all the answers will just come.
Yeah, one by one.
Yeah.
Piece by piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That was so good. I have so many truth bumps. It's fucking crazy.
I love that.
You see them? Like, they're all over
Yeah,
the place.
I do.